Tell me about what you're looking for, because you've got great credentials from where you came from. So I am humbled and honored that you would come and ask my question about this. But let's talk about engineering. You're looking for a VP of engineering.
We are. So, when I took over QCash, scarily enough, I was the most technical resource that was in the company. And so I really did fill the role of CEO and CTO. And I could do that based on my background with Microsoft and Amazon.
Right.
We were a small company, right? Now that we are so much bigger, I can't give that level of attention to our engineering team and the work and the architecture and the roadmap that I could in the early days. And so, we're looking for a VP of engineering. And, one of the unique things is we offshore all of our dev work. So I have a company, a contractor that I use, Eastern European developers, best in the world. Most of their work they do for Microsoft corporate and Apple corporate. So they're literally refactoring, for example, Power BI code for Microsoft, right?
Wow.
So
you're all built in Azure, I'm assuming.
Yep, we're in Azure.
Okay. Yeah,
so
gotcha.
The reason I can use them is because they knew me from my Microsoft days. So they're doing me a favor. But at the end of the day, when you think about the different components, whether it's architecture, cybersecurity, infrastructure, DevOps, coding, and I've got 3 dev teams working on simultaneous different projects at the same time, right? I need what I call a conductor of my orchestra, right? And at the end of the day, what I need somebody who is a subject matter expert, but a generalist, right? I need somebody who understands DevOps, understands what it means to spin up a VM, but at the same time can understand a phishing email or whether that code base should be in React or Java or, whatever. So, and then manage
who will this role report to? You?
Me. Yep.
Okay. So, and will they oversee engineering and product?
So, that's a good question. So I here's the way my mind works. And I don't know if you've ever heard this before, Kris, but there's 2 philosophies on product development. Philosophy 1 is I'm going to go build something cool and then find a problem it solves. I call that the engineering-led product.
Yes.
Right? And it's not very successful. No. Then philosophy number 2 is I'm going to go find a problem and build a product that solves it. That's a product-led product, and it's very successfh And so what I want this role to do is to be over product from is the development team giving the right support to product, and is the development team asking the right questions? Is the Jira board, the user stories, are all of them correct for what engineering needs? But I really don't expect them to be in the product ideation part until we get to the point where we are looking at, okay, now this is what we're going to build. Now we need engineers' help to say what is the best way to do it. So I do think there's a dotted line into this role for product.
You said you had 3 product teams?
3 engineering teams.
3 engineering teams. Are they potted off by product though? Like you're working on this aspect of the product, maybe front end, you're working on back end, you're working on data out. Like, is that how you're set up?
It's
and
3.
Each of those teams have a product manager.
So I've got 2 product managers for the 3
shared. They're shared across the 3 teams. Okay, so what we did, and we've really wrestled with this, right? When we originally started off, I had somebody that was the head of product reporting to me, and I had somebody that was the head of engineering reporting to me. And I'm sure you've been in circumstances where that, and what ends up happening in those pieces is product will say engineering's not giving me what I want, and engineering says product's not giving the direction and the requirements that we need, and they end up doing this, and it comes up, and the CEO in that particular case has to kind of duke it out and make fights. I've tried a lot of iterations of this. I've tried to take engineering and put it under a real product thinking person. Brilliant, a fine technologist, right? But the challenge was always organizing the work stream over time,
Hmm.
right? Because it was product can be very like myself, very kind of driven by what's interesting and new, right? And not necessarily looking at it from the perspective of saying, hey, I've got 120 things to do I need to do between now and 6 months from now, right? How do I organize and execute that work? Because it takes an engineering mindset, not a product mindset, right? Um, where we are today, I'm very happy with, and that is that we have a CTO who is a true cloud CTO, right? So Dan Obernesser is our cloud CTO. His background wasn't in credit unions. His background was actually we're doing Salesforce and other things, but he understood the cloud really, really well. And the other thing Dan does well is he hires well, right? So he's got a team that he's got a product lead under him and
Hmm.
is what I would call a chief engineering type, right? And he can then coordinate the work that's happening between them and deconflict the challenges, right,
Right.
when they come up, and really set the tone for what's expected. So, um, I think um, that type of role for me would have to have some say over product just
Hmm.
because of the experience that I've had so far. We aren't big enough. We're 41 total employees. How big are you guys now, Seth?
We are 20, United States based and about
Right.
another 16 or 17 overseas.
Overseas. Okay. Um, so I would think you're probably looking for a VP of engineering that has some pretty good understanding around how product should be run.
It would need to because we're a product company, right?
It has to. But now the cool part is they don't have to define it. In our world, Dan didn't come from banking, right? Dan came from other kinds of consulting, but the product manager we have wrote an online banking system,
Sure.
right? So she is very well aware of, okay, this is what credit, and she came from a credit union. These are what credit unions want. This is how you deliver it. These are the considerations you need to make when you're doing that kind of transaction. Like has the body of knowledge and work around how to make it work inside of an institution, and she can give Dan a lot of perspective around kind of the importance of things from how this product fits in with potential customers and how changes to the product fit in with potential customers. Um, from that perspective, I think that's been my experience. Right, was um, separate, didn't work. Engineering under a product guy, we had some success, but it was still challenging. And we're having more success kind of with the higher level engineering guy and product coming underneath them.